Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this first webinar in connection with our MARSA project. Just to introduce myself, I'm Nicolette Vermaak. I'm a postdoc researcher at the Center for Environmental Management. And on top of that, I wear three other hats. I'm vice chair for the groundwater division. I'm secretary for the IIH South Africa group, the organization, and I am also one of the organizers for the South African Danida Alumni Network. This project that I'm presenting to you today has been funded by Danida, and all the little icons at the bottom of the screen is the organizations that is partners in this project. And the list of authors is some of the researchers and students that's been working with us on this project. This is a quick overview of what I'm going to present today. So one of the biggest things is with the project is you need the right people and institutions to be part of it. I'm going to talk a little bit about these two study areas, touch on the aims and objectives, and then our project was divided into 3 work packages. We're going to look a little bit about that. And then I will share with you some of the last activities that we need to do and what I'd like to do when we get funding or project ideas or whatever further on. So this is, again, the logos of the institutions. There's some faces that attended our first kickoff meeting in South Africa in November 2021. The DWS partners could unfortunately not attend. And sorry for the background noise. So this was at the Coastal Recharge Basin at Atlantis. These are the names of the people from GWD, the Geological Survey of Denmark and Greenland. Jens Amand is the project leader. And then there's Björn, Ulla, and Tina. The next Danish partner was Rambo. It's a consultancy in Denmark with Jan Kirstein, Maz, and Anna. And no, you're not seeing double. Tina left GWD and joined Rambo, so she's just changed organizations. And Jan has left Rambo, so he's unfortunately no longer part of the project. For the University of the Free State, it was me. You can see me on the photograph on the bottom. And Dr. Paul Oberholzer is the one with the very dirty pants on the second photograph on the slide. And his son Petri has assisted us during the installation of some of the piezometers in the beginning of the project. So far, we've had 2 students that graduated. Sivu finished her master's 2 years back, and Tentu graduated this year with distinction and got the awarded best in class. Afifa is not actually a student, but she actually helped me with some of the background research. We still want her to complete her PhD, but we're waiting for a few things to change. From Department of Water and Sanitation, it was Farnes and Aodwa. Unfortunately, Farnes couldn't join us in the field during this project, but he contributed in other ways. So the photograph is just of Aodwa. The University of the Western Cape actually added the most students. So Dr. Zani and Sumaya was the two main researchers, with Malika as a researcher and a PhD student. And then there was Colton and Anelka that worked on the project as BC honors students and as MSc students. They're both in their second year of their MSc. Then there's Ndu, Melissa, and Sebastian and Dean that did their MSCs, and Kane and KD, and then may doing their honors. And there may have been a few that I missed the names. If I did, I apologize. Our two study areas are both on the west coast of the Western Cape. The first one is sitting around just north of Robben Island at Atlantis, where Managed Aquifer Recharge has been in implementation for almost 50 years now, with infiltration basins. And our second study site was at Langebaan Road Aquifer in the vicinity of Saldanha and Hopefield. This is just a quick overview of the Atlantis setup. With Atlantis, you have two well fields. It's the Silverstrom well field that also have the Silverstrom spring, and this Witstrand well field. The recharge basins get water from the stormwater and from the treated effluent from the wastewater treatment works. And then the water is infiltrated with infiltration basins. You also have some coastal basins where the stormwater from the industrial area and the industrial treated effluent is infiltrated. The other diagram shows a cross-section of the Atlantis aquifer, and you can see it's actually a very thin strip of sedimentary deposits that make up this basin. Langebaan Road is a slightly more complex system than Atlantis. There's three major parts in the vicinity, with one of them actually not in the Langebaan Road aquifer. So to the north, you've got the Langebaan Road well field and its extension that was drilled in 2018. Then you've got the Hopefield well field just to the southeast of it, between the Langebaan Road well field and Hopefield. And then on the Elandsfontein aquifer, you've got the phosphate mine. But as I said, it's not in the same aquifer system, aquifer unit. The figure on the top right is one that comes from my PhD thesis. It's a cross-section that Anton Lucas plotted for me using boron logs that we had, showing you the upper aquifer layer, which is consisting of Varswater, Langebaan Formation, and Witstrand Formation. The bright yellow is the Elandsfontein clay, and the lighter yellow is the gravel part, which forms the lower aquifer, and then the gray is your basement aquifer that can consist of either Malmesbury shale or granite. The two other figures comes from the work that Rumble did for the Phase 2 Strategic Sector Cooperation between the Danish EPA and DWS. That the project doing some mapping and modeling for the area to feed into a water management system. So the figure on the bottom right actually shows some of the geophysics in cross-section compared to the cross-section that they plotted for the same line. Aims and objectives, and sorry, this is slightly more technical, just boring writing, so not my normal slides. we basically wanted to see if we could use reactive barriers to help us create cleaner water to use for managed aquifer recharge, and whether we can use different processes to prevent clogging in the infiltration basins, in the maybe infiltration boreholes or injection boreholes. What was the limit for salinity for water to be used for MIR? Types of pre-treatment that can be used, long-term sustainability, and how it can actually improve the supply of drinking water availability. The aim was to develop MIR technologies, MIR in this case meaning managed aquifer recharge, not mean annual runoff, that allow for a broader span of water resources to be used for managed aquifer recharge, including stormwater, river water, saline water, and even reclaimed water, treated wastewater. The objectives was to provide new water recycling tools for use by water managers in South Africa and globally to combat water scarcity, introducing barriers at MIR facilities, as well as oxidizing agencies to stimulate aerobic degradation processes so that you can use a wider range of water qualities, and allow for a larger amount of water to be reused, less discharge of water that's not that clean to aquatic ecosystems, and potential relevant pre-treatment technologies. So we're quickly going to look at the work packages. This is a quick overview. Work package 1 was a feasibility study and MIR development, just the theoretical background. Work package 2 was looking at the environmental effects of the MIR applications, and it was basically very similar to what we did in Denmark. Then we wanted to implement the pilot scale testing. We're busy with that in a link to the Atlantis site, and the impact of managed aquifer recharge on water supply, and the outcome would be safe and sustainable water supply for South Africa, and potentially use that technology for other areas as well. So under work package 1, it was the design and operation of a model filtration reactor system, as you can see in the sketch next to it. Basically a column setup, develop protocols for the analysis of the organic pollutants, pathogens, and then pathogenic indicators and AGRs, and feasibility studies. And we wanted to write a publication. It's actually written. We just need to finalize it and send it off for publication. So this is a few photographs of me and Audwa in the labs in Denmark 2 years back. Sumaya was there as well, and she's not included because she was helping Ulla with the batch experiments. So first of all, we did some flow to make sure that which rate we needed to add the our treatment flow. And then this is the basic theoretic setup. We used hydrochar in one of the two of the columns, one as control, biochar in the second one, and without any biochar in the third one. And then, of course, we had additional controls. We repeated this in South Africa, and I can basically explain to you what I did with Audwa's help here at Free State University. So we repeated the column setups in our labs. UWC has their own setup. And we needed to model the system to use the for the study area to see the effects of adding oxidizing agents, fluctuating groundwater tables, salinities on attenuation of groundwater, organic pollutants, and a few other things. This is basically what it looked like. On the left-hand side is what it looked like before we added the water. The two taller columns comes from the Berg River floodplain. and the other 2 comes from 2 wetlands around the well field, the Langebaan Road well field. And once we added the water, we noticed something very interesting. Especially when I repeated this later, the dry sediments that comes from the wetlands actually took longer to hydrate, but once it was hydrated, and if you look at the white layers of the sediments, that's calcrete in the area. Once it was hydrated, the flow through was quite readily. The 2 sites for the Burke River, the 2 columns for the Burke River floodplain, actually didn't have very big success with flow through the columns. And we found out that there's a very thin layer of very bad swelling clays at the top that actually prevents any flow from going through the columns. This is the work package 3. So we wanted to look at the characterization of the geology, geohydrology, and infiltration capacity. This was basically a desktop work, looking at the work that's already been done and compiling it into a report. We also did monitoring of the groundwater system and potential water sources, quality for potential water sources, such as the Burke River. And we looked at the potential of the impacts of MAR on associated wetland spans and springs, because one of the things I learned from my time at DWS is you don't want the people working with resource protection and CNI authorizations on your case, because you've negatively impacted the environment, especially riparian zones and wetlands. And the third one is the establishment of water infiltration sites and barriers. These are some photographs that we took at the site. So we did a lot of wetland monitoring from our university side. And as you can see from the photograph at the bottom, we had visited every time we stopped at that site to come and check what we're doing. And the team was very active. Everyone participated. We also did groundwater monitoring for the boreholes, dug wells, that was quite close to the wetlands, so that we could have a comparison between the surface water in the wetland, the groundwater in the boreholes or dug wells, and the piezometer that we installed at most of the well fields, at most of the wetlands. And we collected some soil and water samples to use in the columns and for chemical analysis. And as you can see, we used the hand auger, so a lot of hard work by the students. This is just some of the monitoring. On the left-hand side is taking a sample from a rain gauge. That's the Burke River around the time that we started the project. September last year, it was in full flood and you could actually not see the riverbanks. And the third one is Prof. Oberholzer and Tendo taking samples from a borehole using a baler. This is just some photographs and a conceptual model of how we think the wetlands work. So you can see the calcrete banks at the top of the wetland. And we believe that the calcrete actually might play a more important role in the water storage and the flow in these systems, and of course the links to the wetlands. It will be explained a lot better once we write it up, but that's just the conceptual model that we started working on. Then we collected the data and analyzed it, plotted graphs, and this is data that we have for wetland 8. The department monitored under the name 176/1F. It was a gauge plate. So you can actually see how the water levels seems to link to rainfall, but there's also a potential that it could have been affected by a few other things because the CSR did a pilot test managed aquifer recharge near this wetland. So we need to go and check if there was some impact from the managed aquifer recharge and not just rainfall. We also did hydrochemistry and isotope sampling. This is some of the isotope results from the first 4 times that we did the analysis. I'm not going to explain it at the moment, but just wanted to show you this is some of the data that we got from it. What is interesting that for some of the seasons, the Burke River plots closer to the groundwater, and at other times, it plots right on the other side with the wetlands that has a high salinity, such as in the West Coast Fossil Park. This is our recommendations based on the information that we've collected so far for possible MAR setups at Langebaan Road. The figure at the top is a Google Earth image of the Burke River floodplain with an indication of where we originally thought that we could put in an infiltration system to try and go through all the clay layers to the lower Elandsfontein aquifer layer. Our recommendations in the end was the use of infiltration basins that might be augmented by infiltration boreholes. From the 2008-2009 pilots test by the CSR, it looks like with the confining clay layers, you actually do not want to do injection because you might have the same problems that they had with the water popping up along the casings to the upper aquifer. So infiltration basins on the Burke River floodplain around Kersefontein or Langriet Vlei. We need to remove the top at least 15 centimeters so to get rid of that expanding clay layer. And it might need to be a fairly deep setup for periodic augmentation. And one of the bad things was last year, the photograph at the bottom is what it looked like. And our piezometers was actually in the water when we got there in September. It could have been a very nice time to augment the recharge to the aquifer. At Hopefield and Langebaan Road, there's sand layers that might be too thick for infiltration basins to be effective. But there is already injection boreholes equipped at both the old site for Langebaan Road, Wellfield, and the new expanded Wellfield, and then as well also at the Hopefield Wellfield. The other potential that we identified as we investigated the wetlands is that they could potentially be used as infiltration basins. We still need to make sure about the capacity of the sediments to purify water in natural attenuation and whether we need additional layers for that, such as biochar. And we need to make sure about the source water. So there's still a lot to go before it will be implemented. But we're hoping that this will help towards that decision. Work package 4 is looking at groundwater resource development by implementing a managed aquifer recharge. The first one is modeling the potential for MAR in the West Coast District Municipality. This is to a great extent a numerical exercise, and we need to check what's the water availability, what's the need for it, and how we're going to bring the two together. The next one we want to look at is socio-economic preconditions. This is the kind of things that, does the municipality have the economic support to implement the recharge, managed aquifer recharge system, because it can be technologically intensive and financially quite a big expense. And then we want to see if we need to expand the existing guidelines on managed aquifer recharge. And you can actually see that South Africa has done quite a lot of work on developing guidelines and strategies around managed aquifer recharge. It may be necessary to include things like the the water quality variation and the scale of the managed aquifer recharge system. So at this stage, we're still having to work on the collection of the data for the feasibility of managed aquifer recharge at the West Coast District Municipality. We have sent out questionnaires on the socioeconomic preconditions to some of the municipalities. We got some responses back, which we appreciate, but we're still waiting for responses from others. And then when all of this is done, we need to update the guidelines based on our results and the findings from all the other work packages and specifically this one. So this work package is going to be the last one that we're going to work on. So our last activities, Malika and I are fortunate to go and visit Denmark later this month, where we're going to work intensively at writing up articles and reports. Then we need to do the financial reporting. And this is one of the big headaches for some people because it has to come with a clear audit report. And sometimes they don't quite understand what we were trying to do. The way forward, I'd like to do some follow-up projects based on this. And I've got a few of the students and our fellow researchers that's also interested in it, is to investigate the use of managed aquifer recharge in other areas. Wetlands and groundwater surface water interaction is actually a very interesting topic and not always very well understood. So I'd like to continue with that. Even when I started with my PhD, my study leader, Dani Vermeulen, said to me, go and look at the role of calcrete. So since then, I've been looking at it, and I found that there's quite a number of interesting things surrounding the calcrete. And one of the big needs that I've identified from my time at the Department of Water and Sanitation and my research is that we need to have improved groundwater mapping and modeling. One of the things that I was asked to include was how you can maybe help to further some of the research. Candice Lasher-Skeepers has, when she worked at the City of Cape Town, has managed to secure funding from France, but we need co-funding from South Africa to unlock that funding from France. I don't have much more details than that. The South African co-funding would go towards capacity building for especially women in the Atlantis area. So if you're interested, contact me so I can put you in contact with Candice. Our Center of Environmental Management is celebrating their 30th birthday this year, and we'd like to have something like a small seminar or something later this year. If you need more information on that, on whether you'd like to present or maybe contribute in another way, please contact me on that. And the next thing is ISHMAR 12 that's coming to South Africa next year, end of April, beginning of May, about this time next year. So the next few slides is just a little bit of the slides. That's the venue. It's at Technopark in Stellenbosch. The field excursions would include Cape Flats, Atlantis, Langebaan Road, and Elandsfontein. And we're planning post-conference to towards Windhoek with Ricky Murray. So if you're interested, please let us know whether it would be worth our while to organize this. And that's a quick aerial view of the area that we're going to have the conference in. And for the webinar series, please watch this space. There's a few more topics that I'd like to discuss, and if I can get some of my fellow researchers and students to help me, we'd like to add some more presentations, not just on the results of the project, but also on some of the methodologies that we used and how we can improve those methodologies. And I went through this a lot faster than I thought, so thank you for listening to me. If you've missed some of it, it has been recorded. It will be available on the Groundwater Division YouTube channel. But if you can't find it there, talk to Ilanda. She will be able to give you the necessary directions. For now, if you have any questions, you're welcome to raise your hand or please put it in the chat.
Hi, Nicolette. Sorry, while we're waiting for the questions coming through, I just wanted to ask you, what is the timeline for this project? What are you looking at towards the ending of the project? Your final reports.
The project is officially ending end of September. We have a slight, end of August this year, but we have a slight extension to finish up the report writing. Partly because COVID messed up the start of our project.
Okay. Yeah. Couldn't go to the field. Yeah.
Yeah. So technically we're finishing end of August, but we might work a bit longer on the project reports.
Thank you so much for that, Nicolette. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining in. We see a lot of our members here, see a lot of people that worked on the project. That's wonderful. If somebody feels something like sharing while you were working on the project, that would be amazing. Or just questions. I'm sure there must be a lot of questions in terms of managed aquifer recharge in South Africa. Nicolette, it seems that everybody here knows exactly everything they need to hear, and I'm sure they're just waiting for your follow-up presentations to actually get also to that. How successful do you see managed aquifer recharge overall? Just a question from you who's viewing from the side. Is that an actual solution or one of the tools we can use in South Africa?
From what I've seen with Atlantis, it's definitely a successful thing to implement for water security.
Which countries are having that as a very successful? Which countries are using it? Is it Denmark specifically?
From Denmark, actually. Sorry for the noise.
I'm just trying to find the interruption on the sound. Just 1 second, Nicolette. Sorry, before you answer that, we've got a question that also came.
Nina.
Nicolette, are you there?
I'm here. My dogs just wanted to take over. Sorry for that.
No, that's fine. Listen here, in the chat window, we've got actually a question from Lubi Singh Kolobe. Libby saying welcome. She's asking, are there other places besides Atlantis where MARA has been successfully implemented in South Africa? Good question. Yes, that's linking up to.
The person that can actually answer that the best is Farnes, but yes, there is a few more. There's in Limpopo, there's at least one fairly successful one. There's a few smaller ones in the Karoo area that Danida is working on with Farnes. And the one that they did at Langebaan Road was partially successful. But it wasn't a long-term thing. So the one in Limpopo is long-term. The one in Atlantis has a long-term record. Farnes, if you have anything to add.
Yeah, thanks, Nicolette. If we're talking about successful operational schemes currently, so then Atlantis stands out as number one. And then the ones that's then after that is your Polokwane system that's currently up and running. And then if we start moving towards the south, we've got one at close to Pretoria at one of Eland mine, just close to us. And then if we're going down to the central areas, we've got Williston system that's up and running, doing quite well. We are managing that. Well, we are managing it, or the municipality is managing it. And then there is a few that we've implemented around Carnarvon. There is one system. I'll just get my bearings right. At least one system that's up and running. Calvinia, there is the two systems that's up and running. And then also in Williston, there is three systems up and running on that side. So that is most of the time it's small systems, but Cape Flats is the latest big one. And then if we're going to the mines, we've got at least two in close to Kuruman-Postmasburg, and then also in the Langebaan Road aquifer, there is the Elandsfontein aquifer system. So in a sense, there is a number of them in South Africa, but our biggest challenge is we are very good with developing the paperwork and designing the schemes, but the implementation side of it is a little bit lacking. But I must say that within South Africa, within the last few years, we are actually starting to get them rolling them out quite good, or at a fast pace. So that's very, very good from South Africa side. So we are definitely doing our bit for it in the world. Thanks.
Just to answer the question that Ilanda posed, America has quite a number of schemes, but the biggest schemes that I know of is in Australia, where quite a number of our young hydrogeologists immigrated to not too long ago. So Kes Murray actually presented on dewatering and managed aquifer recharge not too long ago from that side. So Australia, California, and I think leaders, yes, and I think there's a few places in Europe, but Denmark doesn't need to do managed aquifer recharge at this stage. They still get enough rainfall. And their problem is to divert the stormwater so that it doesn't flood the roads. In South Africa, we actually need to use the methodology that they developed for stormwater diversion to store the stormwater. So that's the kind of things that Farnes and Danida started working on in the Karoo. Implementation in South Africa, the challenging fact there is that if you want to implement managed aquifer recharge for a municipal water supply, you're actually faced with the fact that you don't always have the people with the right capacities to implement it and manage it and maintain it at municipal level. If you go for a big system like in Cape Flats with City of Cape Town, you actually need people with the right know-how, with the right technical skills to manage it and to make sure that it's done correctly. So level of knowledge and capacity is a big problem. And I think another thing is that it's not something that most people think about. Water availability to use as a source water is another problem. If you don't have the source water, like in rainfall, stormwater, river water nearby, you're actually stuck. And Moses, I will definitely provide the copy of the presentation. I have already shared it with Ilanda. So the information will be shared. And the details for the next year's symposium on Managed Aquifer Recharge, you can go knock at Farnes's door. He'll give you the information on that, but you can also contact me if you need more information.
Thank you, Nicolette. I see there was hands up. I think Kwazi was the first, and then there's also Lincoln. They would love to speak to you.
Kwazi?
Okay, thank you, Ilanda, and thank you, Nicolette, for the presentation. I was just wondering, since we have different types of MARs, depending on your geohydrological properties in your study area, I was wondering if for these two case studies, are you planning to use the same type of MAR, or is it different types? I might have missed that because I joined later. So I'm wondering if you'll be using the same type, and then if it's not the case, if that's not the case, is there some plan to include an area with a different kind of geology that can use a different type to do the piloting also? Thank you.
Kwazi, thank you for the question. With Atlantis, because it's a fairly shallow porous aquifer, infiltration basins was definitely the best way to go, except of course that you might have additional evaporation. But with Langebaan Road, you're sitting with a multi-layer system. So you will have to have a combination of infiltration basins and infiltration boreholes. At times, if you manage it correctly, injection boreholes can also be used, but you have to make sure that your pressure never exceeds what the clay layer can handle. Otherwise, you get the water going up into the upper aquifer layer and you're actually not getting it where you want it to be. They have tried inject other methods in other geologies. So Langebaan Road and Atlantis in some ways are very similar. Some of the others like Karkams and Dolphinia and Williston is hard rock aquifers. So it is possible to do it in other areas as well. Maybe not quite at the same scale. I hope that answers the question.
Okay, yes, it answers very well. Thank you.
Okay.
So the next one is Lincoln. Nicolette? Lincoln, you can share or you can...
Hi, Nicolette, can you hear me? Sorry, I have a similar question to what Kwazi had. I just wondered, seeing as Atlantis, the groundwater tends to have very high salinity. Yeah, I was wondering, like, the approach would probably be a lot different to what you would follow in Golfinia or in Polokwane. Yeah, and is it difficult to determine if the managed aquifer recharge is successful? That would obviously depend on what the set out goal is, or the monitoring points in the MAR scheme.
Lincoln, yes. One of the easiest ways to monitor whether your managed aquifer recharge is successful is to monitor the water levels. With a fractured system like Golfinia and Williston, it's slightly more difficult because sometimes the fractures make it not as easy to have a direct correlation like you do in Langebaan Road. When they did the injection in Langebaan Road, we did the monitoring monthly. So every month I get there, the water table is 2 meters higher for the lower aquifer. Now remember, it's a semi-confined system, so the increase is quite big. And when they stopped the injection and started pumping, the water level dropped 2 meters every month. So that's the one way you can determine whether it's successful. The second one is maybe changes in chemistry. If you use a source water that's got a lower EC and mineral content than the groundwater, it should change the groundwater chemistry to lower some of the constituents. So there are ways to monitor it. And then, of course, if you have down gradient boreholes from your recharge points, those will be your best indicators. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you very much, yeah. Thanks. Thanks, Nicolette.
Pleasure.
So, Nicolette, I cannot see any more hands at the moment or questions. Just before, whilst people are still thinking about it, please share with us. Oh, I see. Okay, I'll leave my question or my request for the last. I see John is also wanting to say, hi, John. It's nice seeing you online as well. You can speak to Nicolette. It's perfect.
Hi, Elanda, and hi, Nicolette, and hi, everyone, and Fanas Day. Hi, everyone. Thank you for taking. Am I audible? Can you hear me?
Yes, John. Thank you for attending.
Yeah, I almost forgot about it. I was driving from almost 30 minutes driving. I just parked now to also, give some contribution where I can. But first, thank you for the very informative information that you have presented. It's very helpful in terms of going forward and also assisting the authority in terms of dealing with this. I'm mentioning that in terms of authority because recently, last month, I received a request in terms of continuation of the feasibility study for the same type of work somewhere in Prince Albert, where they would like the municipality there, they would like to go ahead in terms of the managed aquifer recharge in the area there. So with this information is very helpful in terms of sort of advice in terms of going ahead. But one of the things that I wanted to find out from you guys, the challenges that you get maybe related to in terms of getting a license. If I say license, now I'm talking where you have probably to block water for recharging purposes, is where it triggers CNI. How do you deal with that? Do you wait for application? I'm asking that question because yes, it's gonna come from my side, but luckily this has been a study that has been done a long time ago. I think it's 2010. I don't remember I think Ricky Maria was also part of that, and I believe you're gonna be forming part of this one that is coming up. So that is that question. The other question, whether or not a question, maybe I misunderstood because I was battling to join. It was when you mentioned the column study that you have taken water from the Berke River. So I was looking at that, but the Berke River is like a little bit far away from that road that you showed on the map. So how representative is that, unless I misunderstood in terms of that water on your presentation? Thank you, Nicolette.
John, there's an article that Danita, Vicky, and Fanis and I wrote on the authorization part. Managed Aquifer Recharge falls under Section 21E, which is controlled activities, because in some cases you will use water that's not the same quality as what you want to inject. So it's seen as wastewater. But yes, it will, in some cases, trigger CNI. In my case, if we do the infiltration on the floodplain of the Burke River, it's going to definitely trigger 21 CNI. It's going to go probably as an integrated water use license. That would probably include your source water, if you which is 21A. It will include 21E, and it might include CNI depending on whether you're going to impact riverbanks. The process for the 21E is not quite clear yet. We started drafting a form that looked at all the information that would be necessary for 21E, but it's never been formalized. And we ran into some problems with that one as well, related to a specific case. But it will basically go through more or less the same procedures as any other integrated water use license. On the Burke River, there's a lot of pipelines running from Withoogte, and there's another one coming from around Kersefontein that used to supply the old phosphate mine, which is now the West Coast Fossil Park. So getting the source water from the Burke River to wherever you want to do the managed aquifer recharge may not be a huge challenge. But it depends on exactly the type and the site that you're going to choose. And if you want to use treated effluent, unfortunately, most of the towns are on the coast, so you will have to pump the treated effluent up gradient for managed aquifer recharge there. So in the case of Saldanha, the Burke River is actually the best option. But we're sitting with a problem that the Burke River surface water might actually be over-allocated already, so there might not be a lot of water to spare. But it's something that we will have to look at once we cross that bridge. I hope that answers your question, John.
Thanks, Nicolette. It was very helpful. Yes, it does answer my question, and you'll remember I'm not familiar so much on that side of Burke River, but anyway, it helps a lot. And if you don't mind, I will still communicate with you and Fanas and others who are related when this project starts kick in terms of future advice. Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome to contact us, John.
Excellent. Nicolette, I don't see anything more in the chat. Do we want to give a last round to people? Anybody with commentary? Anybody who wants to just add something? Lincoln, I see your hand is still raised, but I'm not gonna, I'm sure it's just there because of your excellent. Yeah. So otherwise we can give you a chance again, no problem. So guys, anything else from you? More than welcome.
Ilanda, they're welcome to contact me if they have any other questions, and they need to check on the Groundwater Division website for the follow-up webinars. I'm going to try and do them at least once every 2 months, but it might be more regular. We'll keep you updated.
Thank you, Nicolette. That comes to my question that I want to ask you previously. And I love the new ISMAR advertisement, and I would love to actually put that on the website as well. And then the document you mentioned now to John, that you and Faunus and some other people co-wrote about the requirements for the licensing. Maybe just send me something and I can put everything on our debrief, because as you know, with events we usually have a debrief, and on that debrief is also the link to the recording. So, but I will make sure everybody gets your presentation as well. So that's great. Nicolette, thank you
Ilanda,
very much. Yes.
Just for interest's sake, the article I mentioned was actually presented at the 9th ISMAR conference in Mexico by Ricky Murray. So it was also at the ISMAR conference.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, so it's also going to be part and parcel. Yeah,
I'll send you the full article to share with the people.
that would be amazing. So your presentation as well, thank you for sharing that, and we'll put it up. I'm gonna leave it a bit so if somebody else just wants to add something.
Ilana, maybe I can just have a quick word in here.
Sure.
A lot of the work that we've done that Nicolette was referring to with the 2010 work, John is mentioning Prince Albert. There's a feasibility on Prince Albert on the website. And I would like to refer the people to the artificial recharge website of South Africa. So it's artificialrecharge.co.za. Very easy, straightforward. There's a lot of documentation that you can go and read. A lot of the documents Kwasi was talking about and Lincoln was talking about, how do you go implement these projects? What do you need to look at? There's a number of documents that you can look at. There's, for example, a checklist that you can inquire and say, okay, have you looked at the following? Here's an example of a feasibility study that you do. Here's the way that you're going to implement your project. Here's the areas that you can do your planning on. So there's a number of documents that they can actually source from that website. So it's artificialrecharge.co.za.
Thanks, Farnes.
Sure. Thank you, Farnes. I will put that. That's another nice link to put on for the attendees. Thank you so much for that. Nicolette, just from the groundwater division side, we're always so appreciative of you. Thank you for very informative presentations. We look forward to the rest of your series because we would like to see where this research of you is leading as well. That's very interesting, and thank you for your time and everybody that came. We've got a hand clap from Libby Singh. Thank you, Libby Singh. Thank you, everybody, for joining. We hope that we see you soon. We actually a bit slow on the presentations this year, but we're looking forward to courses coming up. We're looking forward to advertise the ISMAR course for next year, or is the MARSA? ISMAR or MARSA? MARSA course?
ISMAR is the seminar. MARSA is the project, the acronym.
That's it. Thank you. Thank you, Nicolette. You see, I need that advertisement so I can also place it and remember it. So thank you. We're looking forward for that. Thank you, everybody, for joining. And if your name is in there, we would like to motivate for some CPD for this series as well. So if you attend this series and just share with us your experiences and what you feel as well at the end, that would be amazing. Thank you, everybody, and I hope you have a lovely rest of the days. Nicolette?
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. See you soon.